Okay, welcome and thank you for stopping by. In this video, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to build a complete coil, starting from this coil here. This is 0.6 millimeter by 15 millimeter copper strip coil. That's what I use for BBMPulser 5B model, 2.4 Tesla, which is 24,000 Gauss. And we're gonna take it from this and gonna complete full coil, and I'll show you all the steps. So and this video might be long. If you need to, you can go ahead and skip some parts, but if you want to see every little details, I'm gonna try to compress as much information as I could into this video. Just go ahead and watch it all. Do me a favor, just go ahead and hit the like button. That helps with the channel, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, and that helps with the channel as well. So in my previous videos, one of them, you have seen how I took a copper strip 15 millimeter wide by 0.6 millimeter, and I made one of these coils. And in this video, we're gonna take it to the next level. So stay tuned. To connect to the coil, I use 6 wires, 4 wires 10 gauge. This is a copper wire, and it's got 105 strands. On some of them I count 102 strands, but a little over 100 strands. And to connect to the sensor here, I use 18 gauge automotive wire. It's also copper wire, and this one's got 16 strands. Where do I get this wire? As you can see, this is an extension cord. I buy them either from Lowe's or Home Depot. I buy them in 100 feet sections, and I cut it to 7.5 feet sections. And the next thing I do, I use a razor blade and I cut it open, and I pulled out these 3 conductors. And I would add additional conductor to make 4, and that will be a next step. I'll show you how to do that. I would keep these conductors twisted as I open the bundle of wires. Later on, I will be adding additional 4th wire to this and 2 18 gauge. It's fairly easy to add additional wire into the bundle, just like I have it here. Later on, I will be adding 2 more 18 gauge wires, similar way as I'm adding this 10 gauge wire. Here is how my bundle of wires look like after I twist all 6 conductors, 6 wires into it. The next step is to attach these wires to the coil. These 2 green wires will get twisted, and I will solder them to the side of the coil here. These white and black conductor wires will be twisted, and I will solder them to this center strip, which provides the power to the center of the coil. And the 18 gauge wires, I will connect them with the sensor wires here. This coil's got Kapton tape over right here, so in order to get to the copper strip, I need to cut out the window. As you can see, I use X-Acto knife, and I cut out a small window where I will solder my wires to. Same way on this strip, I have removed the Kapton tape so that I can solder here. Since the green wires are on the positive sides of the bundle, I'm gonna have to group white and green and black with green, so it will look similar to like that, and I can still have them in a bundle like this, all tight up until they get to the coil here. So let's move on to the next step. This is the pair which will be soldered to the side of the coil here, and as they come to the end, I have them laying one next to each other, and as I twist these conductors together, I use pliers and I squeeze them on the sides here to make it oval, just like that. That will make it easier to solder to the side here. before soldering this wire to the coil, I have to apply solder here and apply solder here. For that, I use my old school soldering tool, and I use a gas torch. I will heat it up and apply solder on those both places, and then I will put it like that and apply heat right here using this soldering tool, and we'll join it together. This is how it looks after I apply solder on the wires and on the coil itself. So the next step, I would place it like this and apply the heat over, and we'll join them together. Here we are. It's important to have a really good connection here to the coil, because when we discharge capacitor bank, there's going to be a lot of current floating from these wires into the coil, and this connection must be good. Try to focus on it. Soldering this pair is much easier than that one. Simply strip the wires, apply some flux, and place something underneath so that heat doesn't damage the wires under this strip here, and solder it. After soldering these wires, I would take 30mm Kapton tape and I would insulate this part here. Okay, and the next one, I'll solder the sensor wires. After all the wires are attached and everything is strapped, we are going to put this wire into the sleeve. For this purpose, I am using 1/2-inch braided expandable sleeve, and they come in different colors, so that's the one I am using, and I'll go ahead and put it into the sleeve. There's another thing I do. This is a bit large. Usually I have it about halfway. This is like additional protection for the wire, and the way I do this is, here is my coil. I put some tape here and I trimmed out the edges of this sleeve. So the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna push some extra sleeve over to this way, like this. You see how it's covering, and I'll go ahead and push some more like that. And then about right here in the coil, I'll install the tape. I'll use this 15mm Kapton tape. I'm gonna put one band here, and then I'm gonna push this back over so that when I put it into the mold, I'll have this sticking out just like that. Let me go ahead and put the tape and I'll show you. Okay, you see how I have a tape here. Now if I take it and push it back, like that, and if I set it on this coil, you see here, once I put it into the mold, that's where the handle will end, and I'll have this sleeve sticking out from the handle. The next, I would clear shrink wrap from here to about here. This is what you get from grocery stores for food wrapping, and I basically cut it on a chop saw, this roll into pieces, and I end up with the smaller pieces that I use to wrap this coil. Later, once I put into the mold and put resin into here, I don't want my resin to flow into this sleeve. This will prevent resin floating into the sleeve. Later on, I can remove everything to the handle up to here. After applying clear wrap, I will start preparing for mold. In this preparation, I'll use acetone and I'll clean this coil here very well. Also, I will scratch this surface around the coil on a plate from the bag here. I want to remove any dirt, any glue, anything in there. I want my mold Flexit 90 resin to stick all around the coil and make a very good seal. Okay, so this is my silicone mold that I've been using for coils. This is my second one. I probably made around 75 coils with this mold already. It's getting old. I will need to make another one soon. So if you guys interested, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll show you how to build one of these silicone molds. So the next step would be applying a lubricant for the mold. That's what I've been using before. I got this new one. Let me show you here. I need to test it out. They're not expensive. They're like less than $10 per bottle, and it lasts for a while. So I would spray it inside here, and this will be a two-part coil. So I will pour the first Flexit 90 over the coil itself to about here through this hole on the bottom, and after it sets, I will pull it out and cut it all around here. Well, I'll go through the steps. I applied the silicone inside, sprayed it, and then I placed the coil in there. As you can see, the wires are coming out from the back, and I would align my wires to go straight in the middle like this, because they can go on an angle a little bit. I would make sure they're perfectly in the middle, and I would lock it with the pins, this type of pins. Let me go ahead and do that. After locking the coil with the pins, I would place it on a board and put another board over, and then I would strap it in here. After strapping it, I would lift it up to the angle like this, 45 angle, and pour the resin from underneath, from here into this hole. Let me set it up. After closing the mold and setting it on an angle of 45 degree, I would use a straw. This is a drinking straw, and I would apply some tape on this side. It's like a stopper tape for the lid. Then I would use these drinking bottles. They're easy to squeeze, and that's what I will pour my Flexit 90 resin after I mixed part A and part B, and put this side is gonna go into the mold, and once I put a resin into here, I'll screw the lid on and squeeze it in there. For the handle, I'll be using different resin, but for the head of the coil, I am using this Flexit 90 polyurethane casting resin. It comes as a part A, part B. Working time is about 3 minutes, actually less than 3 minutes. So this is the cups. They're smaller cups, as you can see, and I would pour up to this third line from the top in both of them, A and B. Then I would pour them together into this mixing cup, and I would mix it for 15 seconds, exactly 15 seconds. After it's mixed for 15 seconds, I will pour it into the bottle, and I will close the lid, attach it to the lid, and we'll squeeze it inside there. Everything needs to happen fast, fairly fast, because this resin sets fairly fast. So if you're gonna be doing it slow, you might not be able to push everything inside by the time it starts getting hard. Okay, I just pour the resin into this bottom part of the coil, And now I have to wait about 15 minutes for it to set to about 90% set, and then I'll take it apart and pull the coil out, but we'll get to that. Usually I would reuse the bottle for the handle, so let's wait for it to set. Okay, it's been 15 minutes and I went ahead and pulled out the coil from the mold. This is how it looks. There's a little air bubble here, but it's hard to get it without any air bubbles. As is, it's pretty good. I would hold on cutting this pin right here. Later on I would use it as I pour the resin into the handle. This would be as a guidance, so once I put it into the mold, this will align the coil to be perfectly in the middle. Alright, so let's go ahead and cut this over here off and prepare for the handle. Okay, after cutting this excess part of the Flexit 90 resin, I went ahead and shrink wrapped it again, this part of the coil, using same shrink wrap, and then I'll take a blade and cut it right there at the edge all around and remove right here all this. I do want my resin to get to this part, and this will prevent resin to flow onto the coil because it will stick to it and it will be hard to remove. Okay, so next I will put some more silicone lubricant in there for the handle. That's where this handle resin like to stick to the mold, and that's one of the reasons I am looking into exchanging this mold, because it's been sticking to it, and every time it removes a little bit of the mold itself and messes up the mold. Okay, I have my coil back inside the mold. It's pre-cut. I spray some lubricant and I'll go ahead and lock it with the pins, and this time I will set it vertically and we'll be injecting resin from the back. Let me go ahead and set it up. For the handle I use Model Pro Black polyurethane casting resin. This, when it sets, it gets really hard like a wood, and that's the part I wanted for the handle. I use about the same amount, a little more for the handle, and then I mix it in here, put it into the bottle. My mold would set vertically, and I'll inject it from the top here. Let me go ahead and do that. Okay, I have just poured resin into the mold for the handle, and now I have to wait about 10 minutes for it to set before I pull it out. After about 15 minutes, let's open it up. Let's see what we got. See how resin flew down on this part of the coil. Here's the handle. Let me get it out. Here we are. Nice handle. You see how mold, how this handle grabs a little bit of the mold, and on this side as well. So, and that's how it messes up the mold. All this needs to be sanded. So the next thing I will do is I would remove this clear wrap over the coil and see how much it protected. There's just a little bit got on here, just right here, and everything else is clean. Then I'll have to remove this part. You get the idea. And I will start sanding. I have this Dremel Multi-Max tool. I use 180 grit paper to it, and then I'll go and start sanding the handle. But for the most part, this coil is about 90% done. Just have to sand it all the way here, polish it, remove the edges here. I'll show you guys. Before I start sanding it, I'll work on the edge here. You see how some of the air got in here, and most of the edge here is sharp. So let me work it and I'll show you how it looks when it's done here. It looks like in here air gap is deep, so I'm gonna have to fill it up. See that shiny spot down on the bottom? I'm gonna have to scratch it all up so that new resin will stick to it, and I'll cover this around with a tape here, and then I'll fill it up with more Model Pro Black and allow it to cure. And after it's cured, I'll trim it and make it even, because you see how there's not enough resin here on the edge. I have to do that sometimes. I just wanted to show you how it looks. Here on the bottom part, I use a blade to scratch it, and inside there I use a Dremel with this bit. It works really well to get in there and get it all. So then the next step, I'll wrap it with the tape and we'll fill it up with the resin. After setting, I'm gonna remove the tape and trim this. So give me a second. Okay, it's done here. Now I'm gonna sand it and polish it, and it will look perfect. You see how inside I removed the sharp edge from inside there as well, so as you bend it on the sides, it doesn't cut into the sleeve like this. Just wanted to show you how it looks after the first rough sanding of the handle and the coil around here on the edges. That's where the mold opens up, and there is a line here that I have to sand off. Later I will use higher grit sanding paper like this one here, 550, and on the foam it works really well. So the next step before I get to the 550 grit, I'm gonna remove this edge, sharp edge here, and I'll make it round like this. And so first I'll use this Dremel and I'll go on a 45 angle here like this, 45, and remove the edges all around, and then go another closer to the 90 degree, a little bit of 180 flat, and I'll remove the upper layer and then the layer on the side, and later I will go with multi-Dremel tool and sand it on the edges here to make it round. Let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you how it looks. And the edge is done here. As you can see, it's not sharp anymore here. Now I'm gonna put the 500 grit 550 and go all around, including the coil, the surface of the coil, all over. After sanding with 550 grit, here is how it looks. Okay, and the next step is polishing. Here is my polishing setup. I use this polishing compound, fine scratch removal. It's soft like this. Then I would apply it on the coil everywhere. I'll start with the handle, apply it here, and once it's there, I will take my handle and run it along this way like this as it turns. After I'm done with the handle, I will do it twice, and then I'll go around the coil there and polish the surface of the coil. Let me go ahead and do the handle. I'll show you how it looks. Okay, the handle has been polished and it's shiny. There is some pattern on it from micro bubbles, but that looks fine. Next is the coil itself. I will apply polishing compound all around, and I'll go ahead and polish it here and on the sides and everywhere there is a scratch, like right there. And after polishing is done, we're gonna work on the end of the wires and we're gonna terminate them. Around 10 inches from the end of the wire, I would install the zip tie. This will temporarily hold the wire. Then I will push this wire over, the sleeve over the wire here, and I would about 8 inches to the edge of the wire I would put tape, and I would use the claw tape and would roll it just like this over here. And after putting a tape here, it's right underneath this sleeve, I'm gonna install another tape right above it, just like that. Now I will push sleeve over back like this, and my tape is over here, so I'll go ahead and put a third layer of tape over here and wrap it down to here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and trim excess sleeve off to here, and I will install, put it in the wire in this cable gland. This is PG19 size. Here we go. Have a little bit of sleeve sticking out here, cable gland, and our wiring. Now I have to determine which green goes with which wire, because I have to do that I need a compass and a power supply. Okay, we're gonna determine next the south and north pole. Okay, then next we're gonna need to determine which green wire connects with which wire. So two greens, one is connected on one side of the coil, another is connected on another side, so we know that. And if we inject current into these two green wires, right now we're injecting 6.3 amps, 0.7 volt. Well, that's probably wiring losing 0.7 volt, but let's see here. We're getting strong magnetic field, and it pulls south towards the north side, so it needs to be in reverse. So let me reverse that. Okay, now it's gonna be pulling north. As you see, we're pulling north side to the north side. And just to verify, I use another compass, same results. After that, we know that this is going to be a positive, which will go to positive capacitor bank, and that will go to the thyristor. So let's connect another wire in this combination to here, and connect another wire to here. And let's see if we're still getting a strong magnetic field. Yep. And just to make sure, I will go ahead and swap the wires and we'll test it again. Let me swap the wires. Okay, after swapping the wires, let's take a look at the compass. It's not pointing north or south, it's just playing around, moving around on this one, and same on this one. So this means we shorted the wires. This means that this green needs to go with this white, and this green needs to go with the black. Let me switch it back and test it again. Okay, let's test it again. Alright, now we're pulling north, and even at farther distances, we're still pulling the north. So this is the correct combination of the wires. And on this compass as well, pulling north to the north side of the coil. Okay, so this means that this set of wires will be connected to the positive on a capacitor bank, and this set of wires will be connected to the thyristor's anode. In my configuration, I would use 8 by a quarter lug nut. Okay, so the positive is gonna go on a capacitor bank, and that's the size I'm using. Let's see, 6 by a quarter, and for the thyristor it will be used 6 3/8. So on a board, this is where positive connects from the coil, and this is where the thyristor's anode connects. So this will go into here, and that will be connected to here, just like that, with the nut and bolt. These thermal sensor wires are connected on the board right here, and simply just solder it into the board in there. So thermal sensor wires, positive and negative. So I would twist the wires. I would install 1/2 inch shrink wrap and shrink wrap it after installing the ends, and this will complete the project. Alright guys, if you like the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.